Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 102. Made vermicelli. Lei Qinzhong opened the gate and deeply bowed with folded hands. Little young master, you are back. N. Mian was about to enter the gate when he was stopped. Please wait. Manager Wei had just secretly measured up this young man. Hearing Lei Qinzhong called him little young master, he immediately confirmed his identity. Instantly, he cupped his hands in salute and let out a hearty laugh. For businessmen, perfecting laughter that made people feel comfortable was also a must type of skill. You must be one of the owners of Double Xiang House and Eating Savory Restaurant, Boss Qin. Qin Mian had to stop and nodded his head. I'm Wei Fuegui, the second manager of Taipei House in Zhaoyang County. I've heard a lot about Boss Qin for a long time, like thunder piercing the ears. Wei Fuegui was determined to accomplish his goal for this trip. Taipei House was one of the 3 famous wine houses in Zhaoyang County. There were 3 managers in total. The chief manager was now old and had decided to step down in about half a month. The new chief manager was to be chosen between him and the third. If he could negotiate the purchase of fruit from leisurely farm residents, he was sure to be the chief manager. Although they were all managers, their authorities and salaries were quite different. It turns out to be Manager Wei. You have overpraised me. All businessmen valued harmony. At this moment, Qin Mian couldn't ignore him. Manager Wei suddenly realized that Boss Qin was open to persuasion compared to Boss Lei. He said with a smile, I've heard of the beauty of leisurely farm residence for a long time. May I be lucky enough to enter Boss Qin's farm residence for a look? Qin Mian shook his head and looked apologetic. Manager Wei makes it awkward for me. Since ATIE didn't invite you in, he has his reasons. Please don't blame me. At this time, Wei Fuegui also felt that he had said something inappropriate. Qin Mian and Lei Tie were a married couple. Lei Tie had already refused him. If Qin Mian let him enter, it would inevitably dishonor Lei Tie. Now, he intuitively realized that the 2 owners of Double Xiang House had a deep companionship and secretly reminded himself to pay attention to this point when dealing with them. However, he was not a person who gave up easily. He talked and laughed as usual. I was very thoughtless. It's my first time coming to the countryside and experiencing such beautiful rural scenery. I honestly envy Boss Qin and Boss Lei for living in such a peaceful village. I wonder if Boss Qin can take a walk with me, considering I came from afar. Qin Mian was not interested to stroll on the embankment of the paddy field with a stranger. He didn't answer the question, could it be that Manager Wei comes for my family's fruit? It was not hard to guess. At present, besides the seasoning recipe, the only thing their family had that others were interested in was their fruits. Precisely. It would be well if Manager Wei was a bit annoyed that this Boss Qin was also very difficult to deal with. Qin Mian smoothly responded, Manager Wei, to tell you the truth, it's not only Taipei House in Zhaoyang County who wants to buy our fruits. 2 days ago, a guest from Anding County even offered a high price of 50 wen per jin of peach, but we did not consent. Firstly, we don't lack money. Secondly, our fruits are one of the special offers of Double Xiang House. Thirdly, once we agree to sell fruits to one person, it will surely lead another. Should we sell it or not then? Therefore, we're not going to set a precedent. Manager Wei is also a businessman, so you must be able to understand. His smiling face was so welcoming that it would not be good for Manager Wei to pull a long face. Next year, part of our fruits will be sold to outsiders. Maybe, there will be an opportunity to cooperate with Manager Wei then. Qin Mian said sincerely, Manager Wei has come from afar, this Qin is unworthy of this. Lei Qinzhong. This servant is here. Lei Qinzhong came forward. Go pick a basket of peaches and give it to Manager Wei. I wish the business of Manager Wei's Taipei House scales new heights. When he did this, Manager Wei could only cup his hands and said, then, many thanks to Boss Qin. I hope we have a chance to cooperate in the coming year. Qin Mian nodded with a smile. As soon as he entered the gate, he saw Lei Tie standing not far away with his hands behind his back. He immediately smiled at his man. Lei Tie obviously came over because he was worried, but he didn't approach because he had trust in Qin Mian's ability. You have to tightly hold on to such a man. He quickly walked up to Lei Tie, hooked his shoulders, and went in together with him. Their paces were brisk. After closing the gate, Lei Qinzhong saw it and also followed after them with a brisk mood. Lei Qinzhong, don't be too honest to outsiders. Find a nice small basket and put 8 peaches. That will be enough. 888, get rich. What a good metaphorical meaning. /Note, in Chinese, the character for number 8 and for rich sound alike, therefore 888 is just like I will get rich / Yes, little young master. Lei Qinzhong left, running. How are things with the Zhao family? Lei Tie led Qin Mian to the tree shade. It went very smoothly. I also bought the pond. It's convenient to use the water later. Anyway, I have to look at the account book first. In the afternoon, I still have to see if there is anything in the house that needs to be renovated. I don't have to watch the training in the afternoon. I'll accompany you. N. Upon seeing Lei Qin Li weeding grass in the orchard, Qin Mian asked him to pick a basket of peaches and send it to Zhao Wenzong's home. Due to the struggle between Du Shi and Wei Shi had reached its peak, Qin Mian had never let people send honey peaches over there even though Wei Shi was pregnant. It was to avoid Wei Shi from misunderstanding that they were trying to rope her in. Before the matter at the old house was resolved, they better stayed clear away from that side. Just like the cherries, he would send some over when the honey peaches tree stopped producing. Back home, Qin Mian ran to the room on the second floor and opened the drawer of the desk. After he found the account book, he sat at the head of the bed and flipped it. Lei Tie poured a cup of herbal tea and brought it upstairs. He put the cup on the table and sat beside his wife. By the way, we need to add more summer clothes. While Qin Mian said this, he turned his head and his lips inadvertently rubbed against his man's cheek. He licked Lei Tie lips and remarked, salty. Such a move was no doubt an invitation to Lei Tie. He clasped his wife's nape, sealed his lips, and vigorously dipped inside his mouth. His other hand, as facile as travelling along a familiar road in a light carriage, probed into the lapel of his wife's clothes. He pressed and pinched, sometimes gently and sometimes strongly. Qin Mian's lips were sealed, so he could only blink to show his helplessness. We're talking about business, how did he get in the mood? Summer was good since one only need to wear something light. Summer was also bad as light clothing could be taken off quickly. He had yet to muster his strength to resist when the man on top of him had impolitely started to eat. He could only throw away the account book and hugged his man's neck. Hasn't it been 3 times this month? His wife still had the leisure mood to count, so Lei Tie thought that he was not doing enough. He swept all the obstructing pillows on the floor and enveloped his wife whole. Nearly 2 hours later, Lei Tie was finally full for the time being. He picked up the exhausted Qin Mian and let him lean on his shoulder as he caressed his back. Qin Mian panted with his mouth wide opened. He pushed aside his man's hair and bit hard at the side of the man's neck, told you to slow down, but you don't listen. Lei Tie gasped in surprise. His body tensed and he asked in a deep voice, want to do it again? Qin Mian conscientiously loosened his bite, I don't want to eat too light today. White gourd balls, steamed tofu, fried eggs with chives, and fried vegetables. You actually order food, isn't it still me who cooks? Qin Mian drowsily rested his head on his man's shoulder. Lei Tie was silent for a moment, shall I do the dishes? Don't rob Aunt Fu of her work. From the past to the present, neither of them mentioned about inviting people to cook at home. They didn't want too many outsiders. Every cooking time, one washed and one cooked, which was also a kind of delight. Teach me how to cook. Mian repeatedly shook his head, no, no. This guy honestly had no talent in cooking. He could only cook dishes such as boiled pork slices and boiled tofu. He just added water to boil in the pot, poured some oil in, and then threw all kinds of ingredients into it. After it was thoroughly cooked, he added salt a little bit and then continued to add if it tasted bland. Stir fry, pan fry, and deep fry was totally out of the question. A few days ago, the two men also tumbled about in the daytime. It was unknown whether it was a whim or something, but LIAN went to stir-fry dishes. As a result, he accidentally invented a new dish, quick-fried black charcoal. PFF, thinking of that day, Mian burst into laughter. LIAN massaged him as he kept silent as grave. When Mian had enough rest, he went downstairs to take a bath and then made lunch. After lunch, LIAN pressed him to take a nap for more than an hour before they went out. The old house of the Zhao family did not need much renovation compared with to last year. Only some of the roof tiles were crooked due to the wind, rain, and snow. It could be done with little effort. As soon as they got home, they started making homemade vermicelli. Mian bought the Zhao family's old house as a vermicelli workshop. The most common vermicelli was made out of sweet potato and potato. Today, they were going to make sweet potato vermicelli. It was not difficult to carry out because there was a guidebook in the magical space. The first step was to make sweet potato flour. Washed and peeled the sweet potato. After mashing it into a paste, add the proper amount of cold water. Kept grasping and pinching the sweet potato paste by hand until the water turned turbid. Then take out the sweet potato paste with a spoon and drained it. What was left in the basin was starch water. Put the sweet potato paste into another basin, add water, and repeat the previous steps until all the starch was washed out, which left the starch slurry water. Let it rest for about half an hour until the water on the surface became clear. Then, slowly poured out the water. What remained in the basin was starch slurry. The starch slurry was then placed under the sun to dry. Afterwards, pound it by hand and make it into sweet potato flour. Next, added some cold water into the sweet potato flour to make it mushy and mixed until it was well blended into a dough. Used the noodle machine to press the dough into strips and boiled it. While boiling, simultaneously added water and stirred. Near noon the next day, the very first made vermicelli in this word was dried under the sun. At noon, it was cooked to see how it turned out. The most common dishes made with vermicelli were ants on the tree and braised pork with vermicelli and cabbage. Summer was not the season to eat cabbage. Mian asked LIAN to pick a cabbage from the magical space. He also cooked a small serving of hot pot and threw a handful of vermicelli into the hot pot. It must taste good. The homemade vermicelli was clean and hygienic. It tasted almost the same as those bought in Mian's previous world. The two men loved it and cleanly wiped out the three dishes. The production method of potato vermicelli and sweet potato vermicelli was practically the same, and they both tasted good, too. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 103. Purchasing sweet potatoes and potatoes. Mian hired 8 women in the village to make sweet potato starch and potato starch from sweet potatoes and potatoes. 2 people for peeling and the other 2 for cutting. Another 4 people mashed them and made the starch. This time, he didn't hire the people that he had been hired before. Instead, he changed to several other people, who were also of good character and diligent in work. This way, he could maintain the balance in the village. The latter step was more critical. Mian made their servants be in charge of it as he was not afraid of them revealing the secret. Mian and LIAN were responsible for the purchase of the potatoes and the sweet potatoes. LIAN would do the checking and weighing, while Mian would kept accounts and paid the money. After the matter was planned properly, Mian had people release the news. If they purchased too many, it would be inconvenient to store. Therefore, they purchased once every 2 days. This day, he came to the gate with his writing brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Meanwhile, LIAN carried a box of copper coins that he specially went to exchange in the town. Uncle Fu brought a set of tables and chairs and put them under the shade of the trees. Early in the morning, the villagers harvested sweet potatoes and potatoes from their properties before coming to leisurely farm residence and lined up at the gate. Summer was not time to harvest sweet potatoes. Most of these sweet potatoes were stored in their cellars in winter. The price was a little higher. The sixth lunar month was the ripening period of potatoes, and most of the potatoes brought by many villagers were still stained with a bit of soil. At this time of the year, the farmers harvested potatoes. Having too much of it wouldn't worth money, so they never thought of selling. They just served it as a dish on their table. But now, leisurely farm residents wanted to buy the potatoes, which they could exchange with money without even going out. Everyone was smiling. The villagers happily chatted, asking each other how many potatoes and sweet potatoes they had brought, what they were going to do with the money, and so on. At this time, the leisurely farm residence's gate was bustling like a grand gathering. A few naughty boys eagerly wanted to run to the farm residence, but they were scolded by their parents and obediently played by the gate. "Everyone, please be quiet. Let me first talk about the price of the sweet potatoes and the potatoes," Mian said in a loud voice as he stood on his chair. LIAN saw that his wife was only half a head higher than him, and a smile flashed past in his eyes. The villagers immediately quieted down for fear of losing money if they missed the pricing. Mian said, "Sweet potato is 1 wen for half a jin, potato is 1 wen for a jin. Because it's impossible for the weight to be an exact number, I can't break a copper into several pieces either. Therefore, if there is any difference at the time of checking out, we will give you the rounded number." "What does it mean?" "The difference won't be paid." A villager asked what everyone was doubting. Mian smiled. "For example, if the weight of your potatoes is 20 jin and 7 liang, the rounding is 21 jin. In short, if there is any difference, it will be calculated to 1 wen." The villagers praised Mian and LIAN for their kindness. Mian modestly said, "You have overpraised. Everyone is a fellow villager, so we will not dare take advantage of anyone. I will write down your name, the weight, and the total price in the account book. If there are illiterate people, you can remember the numbers and ask the literate people to verify it." The villagers all nodded. "That's good." Also, Mian made things clear further, because everyone brought different baskets with different weights, everyone will use our basket to weigh. The weight of your harvest is the total weight excluded from the weight of our basket. The villagers nodded again, they understood this. Mian jumped down from his chair and sat at the table. He put his brush and paper in place. "Tie, you weigh our basket first." LIAN weighed the basket in the presence of all, 6 liang. Most of the households in the village could read the scale. The two women who looked at it nodded to show that there was no problem. "Good, now it's time to weigh. Line up and come one by one," Mian said. Zhou Erhao had come very early, so he was the first in the line. His potatoes were in the basket. LIAN picked up the potatoes one by one to check whether there were rotten areas. If they were good, he put them into their family's basket. Some of the villagers at the back who had thought of deceiving them, quickly found a place to secretly pick out their rotten potatoes and sweet potatoes. Zhou Erhao felt that LIAN's inspection insulted him, but he didn't dare to protest against LIAN. He pulled a long face and muttered, "My family's potatoes are good, newly dug and fresh." Mian said with a smile, "Of course. However, there will be villagers from other villages sending potatoes and sweet potatoes over in 2 days. By doing this way, we treat people equally and avoid unnecessary trouble. Don't take offense, Brother Zhou." Zhou Erhao had nothing to say to that. Checking until the bottom, LIAN picked out 4 rotten potatoes and put them aside. A few of the villagers saw it clearly and sneered. Zhou Erhao haltingly spoke, his tongue failed him. Qin Mian and Lei Tie didn't say anything. Lei Tie hung the basket on the hook of the steel yard, and the sliding weight of the steel yard moved, 40 jin and 4 liang. Qin Mian truthfully wrote it down and repeated it to Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao, potatoes, 40 jin and 4 liang, which counted as 41 jin, 41 wen in total. That's right, Zhou Hao said. Lei Qin Lei quickly counted 41 copper coins from the money box and handed them to Lei Qin Hui. Lei Qin Hui said it again to confirm that it was correct and gave the money to Zhou Hao. The weighed potatoes were loaded on the cart by Lei Qin Zhong. After the cart was full, it was transported to the workshop. Zhou Hao happily took the money and put it in his pocket. A villager at the back of the line joked with him in a loud voice, Hao, let's go to the town to drink today. Zhou Hao picked up the rotten potatoes back into his basket. Another day. The potatoes on the farm haven't been completely dug yet. Next. Du Shi and Zhao Shi each carried a basket and put them on the ground. There were sweet potatoes in one basket and potatoes in the other. The villagers all fell silent and craned their necks. There was a feeling in their hearts that this pair of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law would cause trouble again. Lei Tie also checked hers one by one. Du Shi put on a dead face and snorted coldly. Her voice was sharp, Wai Lang, we are your family. Surely, I won't use the rotten ones to deceive you? Doesn't it look bad for you to check them one by one? The couple acted as though they did not hear her. Qin Mian looked down at the account book while thinking, if there are rotten ones, the one who will look bad is you. The movement of Lei Tie's hands was ceaseless. Zhao Shi thought of the rotten potatoes and sweet potatoes mixed at the bottom and felt a little flustered. All of a sudden, she became clever and quietly pushed the basket to Du Shi's back. Anyway, she just helped to carry the basket. As expected, there were 6 rotten potatoes and 4 rotten sweet potatoes at the bottom of the baskets, all of which could add up to 7 or 8 jin. Quite a few of the villagers clicked their tongue. Du Shi's expression sunk, it's just rotten a bit. If you cut off the rotten parts, won't you still be able to eat them all the same? Qin Mian stood up. With a polite attitude, he said in a serious tone, Mother, you are wrong. We buy these sweet potatoes and potatoes to sell to others for eating. Isn't it harmful to sell rotten products to others? It shouldn't be that serious. Du Shi was afraid of being found out, so her voice was much lower. Qin Mian sat down without further commenting. Sweet potato is 52 jin and 4 liang, potato is 60 jin and 8 liang. Lei Tie's indifferent voice was like hail hitting the ground. Du Shi shuddered and did not dare to argue about this anymore. Qin Mian wrote with fluency as he reported, 52 jin and 4 liang of sweet potato are counted as 53 jin, it should be 79.5 wen but counted as 80 wen. 60 jin and 8 liang of potato are counted as 67 jin, 67 wen. The sum is 147 wen. Lei Qin Lei took out a string of money and counted out 147 wen. Du Shi frowned and did not immediately receive money. Eldest daughter-in-law, say it again. Qin Mian repeated it without delay. After pondering for a long time, Du Shi nodded and took the money. Your Xiaoniang wants some peaches. I'll go in to pick some. With that, she went to go inside. Qin Mian leisurely called out, Lei Qin Lei. Lei Qin Lei took a basket from the back of the cart and ran to Du Shi. He cheerfully said, Eldest young master and little young master have prepared it earlier, old madam. Shall I help to carry it for you? Du Shi saw the basket was full but she couldn't carry any more weight than this as each peach was very big. There should be more than a dozen. Each person in their house could only get one at most. She actually guessed it correctly as Qin Mian gave according to the head count of the family. She was dissatisfied. However, Qin Mian's preparation was exactly within the limit of filial piety, so she could not nitpick a mistake. When she discovered that the villagers' eyes fell on her, her vanity was greatly satisfied. She held her head up high as she walked out of the gate and scolded Lei Qin Lei, why aren't you keeping up with me? LIAN quickly followed. Hey, there are still the baskets. Zhao Shi cried out. LIAN pretended not to hear her and attentively said to Du Shi, Old madam, slow down. Be careful or you'll step on the stone and hurt your feet. Zhao Shi had no choice but to carry the two big baskets by herself and quickly caught up with them. She stared at the basket of peaches, for fear that there would be one less. As soon as they left, the villagers burst into laughter. Mian bowed his head as he wrote, but the corners of his lips quietly curved. Before noon, the villagers in several nearby villages received the news and rushed over with their sweet potatoes and potatoes. They were busy until the evening. After seeing off the last person, Mian shook his wrist. LIAN went over, took his hand and massaged it. Mian leaned on the back of his chair like an idle rich man, with his legs on the table, and said to LIAN Hui's group, You all will take over the next purchase by following today's procedure. LIAN Hui is responsible for the bookkeeping. LIAN Zhong will arrange people to take turns weighing and counting the money. Yes. Mian pondered for a moment and looked at LIAN Hui. There's another thing. LIAN Hui came forward, Please tell me, little young master. How many words do you know? Mian asked. LIAN Hui answered, I'd once studied in a private school for 4 years. I can recognize common words. Mian said, It's always inconvenient for our people to be illiterate. How about you teach others to read? Uncle Fu, LIAN Zhong, and the others were surprised. LIAN's hands even trembled. For them, learning to read was an unreachable thing, but they were being given the chance now. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 104. Vermicelli Workshop opens. The two masters were not the sort of people who criticized others harshly, while Uncle Fu and Aunt Fu were kind, so the servants of leisurely farm residents got along well. LIAN Hui was also happy for others and said without hesitation, I'm willing. Mian said, The third set of the servants' house will be temporarily used as a school for you. Afterward, use 2 hours after lunchtime to study. It doesn't have to be too complicated. First, teach some simple and commonly used words, as well as basic arithmetic. Yes. LIAN Hui responded. Uncle Fu and the others suppressed their excitement and knelt together, Many thanks, little young master and eldest young master. Mian hastily said, Quickly get up. It's not something that can't be done. Uncle Fu, tomorrow you'll arrange for people to go to the town to buy writing brushes, ink sticks, papers, and inkstones. Uncle Fu happily said, Yes. All right, tidy up this place. Mian stood up and felt a little hungry. What do we eat in the evening? There are fresh carps. Then, make braised carps. The two said these and walked away. LIAN carried the money box and followed after in quite a distance. Awoo! Mian glanced over his shoulder and saw a big and fleshy grey-furred rabbit in Dian Bai's mouth. Ha ha! Dian Bai came back at the right time. Let's also make spicy rabbit meat. When Dian Bai ran up to him, he rubbed its big head in appreciation. Awoo! Don't worry. I'll give you half and the rest will be made into spicy rabbit meat. Mian patted it on the head. Dian Bai bit the rabbit and ran away, sending the rabbit to the kitchen. The atmosphere between the two young masters was not so ambiguous because of the appearance of Dian Bai. LIAN found a chance to speak, eldest young master and little young master. There is news from the old house. When he said this, all three understood that it was the news of family separation. Mian asked, How was it? After a big fight, old master and old madam Du disagreed to separate the family. In the end, they came to a compromise that they still have to eat and do farm works together. Henceforth, the money earned by each individual's casual work should be owned by themselves. However, every month, second young master, third young master and fourth young master have to give 150 wen support money to old master, old Madam Du, and Madam Wei. Lei Qin Lei said. Qin Mian raised his eyebrows. A monthly of 150 wen was not a small amount for Lei Xiangren, Lei Zionji, and Lei Xiongli. Lei Qin Lei added, little young master, I also heard that the original agreement was to give 100 wen to old master and old Madam Du, but Madam Wei disagreed. This was not hard to understand. Although Wei Shi had money and now pregnant, the child had yet been born. Du Shi had 4 sons and a daughter to which she could never compare with. If she could get more money for herself and her child, then she should grab it. Seeing that little young master had nothing else to ask, Lei Qin Lei stopped talking and sent the money box to him before excusing himself. Lei Tie went into the kitchen to trim vegetables for cooking. Every morning, Aunt Fu would pick some fresh vegetables from the garden. Actually, these vegetables were replaced by Qin Mian and Lei Tie. The vegetables picked from the garden were used to feed the chickens and ducks in the magical space. After all, the quality of the vegetables in the magical space was higher than that in the garden outside. Ah Tie, what do you think San Lang and Si Lang can do? Qin Mian moved a wooden block and sat beside Lei Tie, shaking a folding fan in his hand. He helped Zhang Dashuan, Wu Di, and the village chief who were neither relatives nor friends. It was inexcusable if he didn't help Lei Zionji and Lei Xiongli to find a way to make money. Lei Tie had no clue, the two of them have no craftsmanship. Qin Mian used his feet to hook the dustbin made by Lei Tie and brought it to his front. He put down the fan, and there were a honey peach and a fruit knife in his hands. Then, he peeled the peach with the knife. In fact, there was still a lot that could be done in the food and beverages field, but he did not want Lei Zionji and Lei Xiongli to venture into the food and beverages business. Since food and drink were going into the stomach, it was better to avoid it in case a problem came up in the future and they blamed him. Or else, I'll give San Lang and Si Lang a procedure for charcoal burning. Most of the charcoal on the market now smoke heavily, which makes the eyes sting. The existing smokeless charcoal on the market is expensive, ordinary people can't afford it. The one I know can guarantee that the charcoal is almost smoke-free. San Lang and Si Lang are diligent people. With the procedure in hand, they will certainly make a lot of money this winter. It's just, Lei Xiangren, Qin Mian frowned. He didn't have a good opinion of Lei Xiangren and his wife. But then, if he ignored Lei Xiangren, it might cause Lei Xiangren to rebound. Lei Tie said, give it to San Lang and Si Lang and let them share it with Lei Xiangren. Also, have them make it clear that the earnings are distributed according to the amount of firewood they individually cut. The rest has nothing to do with us. Qin Mian nodded. Giving this recipe was like giving extreme benevolence toward the old house. Afterwards, it depended on their abilities. The next day, Qin Mian gave Lei Tie the method for charcoal burning and let him talk to Lei Zionji and Lei Xiongli. Meanwhile, he took Aunt Fu to the vermicelli workshop. It was the first day for the 8 female workers. They came early and cleaned up very thoroughly. Seeing Qin Mian's arrival, they all welcomed him. Boss. Qin Mian did not correct their address for him. Sometimes, it was necessary to set him apart from them. Everyone came early. Boss gave us such a good chance to make money, so we dare not be late, said a cheerful aunt with a smile. Qin Mian nodded and signaled Aunt Fu to open the door. Inside the workshop, the purchased potatoes and sweet potatoes had been piled up into hills. The necessary tables and chairs, kitchen knives, peelers, wooden basins, water vats, and so on had also been properly prepared. Qin Mian took them into the kitchen. From now onwards, you will work in this room. In the morning, work from the 4th quarter of the hour of Chen until the end of the hour of Si. In the afternoon, work from the end of the hour of Wu until the end of the house of Shen. There's plenty of time left for you. You've got enough time to do your housework, and there's still time to make dinner before it gets dark. /Note: Hour of Chen is 7 to 9 am, Hour of C is 9 to 11 am, so morning shift is 8 to 11 am. Hour of Wei is 11 am to 1 pm, hour of Wei Shen is 3 to 5 pm, thus afternoon shift is 1 to 5 pm/. The women all nodded and gratefully said, "Boss has arranged it very carefully." Qin Mian faintly smiled, "So, let's be frank. I hope you won't be late for work every day. As you know, many people in the village want to do this work." The women looked apprehensive. "Your monthly salary is 300 wen. 5 wen will be deducted every time you are late. You should have seen the little bell under the eaves just now. The first ring of the bell is in the third quarter of the hour of Chen. When you hear this sound, you must start to rush here. If you don't enter the door before the second ring in the fourth quarter of the hour of Chen, it means you are late." The women secretly admired his method and were also relieved. If they didn't pay attention to the time when they were doing things at home, they still had time to come when the bell rang. Qin Mian threw a look at Aunt Fu. Aunt Fu took out some gauze masks from a small basket she was holding on her arm and handed out 2 masks to each person. "You have to wear masks when you are working. You are allowed to speak, but don't delay your work. Aunt Fu will stay here. If you have any problems later, you can ask her." "Yes." After Qin Mian finished the explanation, he left. The few women knew that with Aunt Fu staying, it must have meant to monitor them. They had wanted to get close to her, but when they thought that Aunt Fu was very loyal to Qin Mian and Lei Tie, and would never say anything that should not be said, they gave up. They put on their masks, took the tools to be used and began to get busy. 300 wen a month was more than some men earned by carrying goods for a month outside. Thus, no one who wanted to lose the job. Qin Mian walked home and saw Lei Qin Shun picking up eggs in the henhouse. "Little young master, how much did you pick up today?" Qin Mian went over to take a look. Lei Qin Shun answered, 31. "The chickens eat well. Almost every hen lays an egg every day. Aunt Fu has already saved more than 200. I heard her saying that some will need to be sold later. Nowadays, the weather is hot, so the eggs may get spoiled after some time." Qin Mian stroked his chin. "Spoiled? He could make salted eggs. People here could also make salted eggs, but they didn't know how to pickle the eggs, so the taste was strange. In the past, he and Lei Tie had tasted it while eating noodles in a noodle shop, and they never ate it again. Well then, you go and see who else is not busy. After that, go outside and find me some Lois." The chickens in his magical space could also produce eggs. Now, he had saved more than 800 eggs. He and Lei Tie couldn't eat them all. Fortunately, the space could keep them fresh. Since he was free today, he should just make salted eggs. When Lei Tie came back from outside, he saw Qin Mian sitting in front of a big wooden basin full of yellow mud water. His 2 sleeves were pulled up and his hands were stirring in the muddy water. "My wife, you are still playing with mud at this age." The corner of Qin Mian's lips twitched. "Who's playing with mud? What are you doing?" "Making salted eggs." "You, come and help too." Qin Mian turned his head and shouted at Lei Qin Shun, "Bring over all the washed eggs. Lei Qin Li, you bring over the earthen pots from there." Lei Tie paused for a moment and then rolled up his sleeves before walking over. "Add salt and mineral oil to the yellow muddy water. Put the washed eggs in and evenly dip them in the mud. Then put them into the earthen pot. Take them out after about 20 days, wash off the mud, and thoroughly boil to eat. This way of preserving will make the egg yolk oily, which tastes very good. The rest is also good." Qin Mian glanced at him as he spoke. Lei Tie nodded. Qin Mian raised his hand and quickly drew a dot on Lei Tie's face with his index finger. Lei Tie looked at him and slightly shook his head. His hands skillfully rolled the eggs around the mud and put them in the pot. "Little young master, the eggs are all washed. Leave this work to us." Lei Qin Shun and Lei Qin Li rolled up their sleeves to join. After you have finished, move them to the storehouse. Qin Mian went to the well to wash his hands. Is everything going well? Lei Tie followed him and helped him rub the mud off his hands. Afterward, you don't have to care about them. Of course, we have a lot of things to do ourselves. Qin Mian said, I came back from the vegetable garden over there just now. The earliest batch of chili has turned red. I need to harvest them as soon as possible. Then, make them into dried chili or chili sauce, so they can be stored for a longer time. Lei Tie said, take an afternoon nap first, and then go to harvest. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 105. Whole Vermicelli Feast. However, it rained for 2 consecutive days. After the sky cleared, Qin Mian and Lei Tie came to the vegetable garden with baskets and straw hats. In the chili field, the first batch of chili planted accounted for about half of the land, divided into 3 plots. Green chili trees could reach knee height. Each of the chilies was thin and long, hanging on the branches with its bright red color exuded warm vitality. The 2 were carrying baskets in one hand and plucking chili with the other hand. At this time, the class was still ongoing in the farm residence. The voice of Lei Qin Shun and the others reading aloud clearly transmitted over. Everyone cherished this hard-to-come-by opportunity. Once the class ended, Lei Qin Zhong led Lei Qin Shun and the others to run over, carrying baskets. They saluted Lei Tie and Qin Mian and picked the chilies together with them. Qin Mian and Lei Tie went back with 2 baskets of chilies and picked another 2 baskets in the magical space. Qin Mian instructed Lei Tie to remove the chilies stalk in one basket, wash them and chop them into pieces. After that, he added a proper amount of minced garlic and salt, and put them into a clean and dried earthen pot before sealing it. This was a simple chili sauce that could be stored for a long time. Qin Mian also made some pickled chilies. The method of pickled chilies was simple. Washed the chilies and dried them. In a cleaned pickle jar, poured in the appropriate amount of salt, sprinkled a little Sichuan pepper powder, and then poured in the cold boiled water. Next, put the chilies in. Lastly, added a little white wine and sealed the jar. It could be eaten in about 6 to 7 days. Wife, since Aunt Fu stays in the workshop, let's buy another person. Lei Tie took a look at the remaining chilies. Qin Mian only thought for a few seconds before he agreed, buy. It's perfect timing, since we're going to town in a few days. After Aunt Fu went to the workshop, she had to drop her original duties in the farm residence such as the work in the vegetable gardens that he and Lei Tie had to attend to themselves. Since they had the capability, why not make themselves more comfortable? After more than 200 jin of vermicelli were produced in the vermicelli workshop, Qin Mian and Lei Tie came to Double Xiang House with 100 jin of vermicelli. When manager Sun Mao's Hung saw the 2 owners came with something, he guessed whether it was a new dish. Manager Sun, how's the business recently? The smile on Sun Masheng's face was a little forced, reporting to little young master, the business is not bad. It's just that, since it's getting hotter now, it's a little bit worse than before. Qin Mian understood that a lack of customers was Double Xiang House's flaw. This problem had been considered before he built the wine house and he had the countermeasure for dealing with the situation long ago. Therefore, he looked not at all conflicted, but tranquil and calm. Manager Sun was certain of his guess, upon seeing this. Lei Tie said something to Qin Mian before he went to make his rounds of inspection. Since it's hot, we'll launch more cold dishes such as pot stewed dish or make a cold dish feast, or a pot stewed dish feast, and something like that. Qin Mian said as he walked inside. As he passed by the lobby, he glanced. He arrived late in the afternoon. At this time, 1/3 of the seats in the lobby was still empty. I'm clear about the cold dish. What is the pot stewed dish? Manager Sun's eyes brightened. Anything that was specially mentioned by the little young master must be extraordinary. We'll talk about this later. We're launching a new dish today. Mian handed him the lottery box that had been prepared earlier. Today, Double Xiang House is holding a lottery to reward new and old customers, with a winning rate of 30%. You tell the customers at each table to take out a card from the box. The blank card means thank you for your patronage, the card with a pattern means they win a prize. The winners will get a new dish called Flourishing Blossoms on the branches personally made by this boss, Mian. In actuality, the dish was called Ants on the Tree, but he thought that the name was not elegant enough, so he changed it to a new name of Flourishing Blossoms on the Branches, which complemented the image. Note: Ants on a Tree is a Beijing dish of spicy ground beef sauce poured over deep-fried tofu skin. From the name, manager soon couldn't make out anything. However, when he heard it was a new dish, he was excited and immediately went out with the lottery box in his arms. Mian hurried into the kitchen and asked people to use boiling water to soften the vermicelli for later use. Not a moment later, he heard noises in the lobby. Soon, a waiter came to report, the customer at table 12 won the prize. Mian motioned to Chef Li to step aside. The other 3 chefs understood that Chef Li would be in charge of the new dish. They were not envious, because each of them was good at different cuisines. Moreover, Little Boss always treated the 4 of them evenly, so much so that when they performed well, Little Boss would give them some recipes. One should know, this also affected their monthly commission. Mian rolled up his sleeves and washed his hands. Chef Li stood aside to observe and learn. When the oil in the wok heated up, Mian added minced ginger and minced garlic to stir-fry until it smelled fragrant. Next, he added well-marinated ground meat and stir-fried it. Following that, he put a little salt, a little liquor, and fresh soup. Then, he added soft vermicelli and stir-fried them. Afterward, he put a little soy sauce. Lastly, he added chopped scallion and stir-fried for a bit before serving it on a plate. The waiter picked up the dish and delivered it to table 12, quickly and steadily. Over there, a waiter ran over and yelled, "Private room 4 won the prize. Dear honored customers, the new dish Flourishing Blossoms on the Branches is delivered. Please enjoy it." When the 4 customers in table 12 saw the vermicelli on the plate which they had never seen before, they looked forward to the dish even more. They immediately moved their chopsticks and carefully tasted it. Their faces showed satisfaction as they repeatedly nodded. Among them was an older person, who couldn't help but praise, "Delicious. This noodle-like ingredient perfectly absorbs every flavor of the seasonings and the lean meat. It is soft, sleek, and tender but still slightly resilient. It's a refreshing taste that is delightful. Very good." Once the rest of the customers heard it, they secretly swallowed their saliva and felt upset that their luck was not good enough to win the prize. A customer regrettably looked at the card in his hand with the stamped words "Thank you for your patronage," and the words "Double Xiang House" on top. In the lower right corner of the card, there was a stamp of a tiny little mouse behaving like a thief. It was strange, but he didn't pay it any thought. He put the card into the lapel of his clothes and impatiently called the waiter to ask, "Waiter, what's the price of this dish? Can I order it now?" The waiter warmly and kindly smiled, "Dear customer, this new dish is only launched today. You must give the chefs time to learn it, yes? However, our boss just said that a vermicelli feast that smells, looks, and tastes great will be launched tomorrow. The whole set of dishes are made of vermicelli. If you are interested, you may as well come back tomorrow." He spoke in a loud voice, which of course, not only for this person to hear. The rest of the diners got the answers they wanted to hear and were satisfied, but some of them didn't know what to eat. They wished that the sky would darken and then immediately light it up. At dusk, the number of customers going in and out of Double Xiang House tremendously increased. Most of them came to inquire about the vermicelli dish, and the 2 families who were rich enough, booked the vermicelli feast in advance. One needed to know that a table of vermicelli feast cost 8 silver taels. It was not cheap. Some of the old customers who decided to have dinner in Double Siang House also pestered manager soon for a lottery draw. Therefore, in the evening, Qin Mian made more than a dozen flourishing blossoms on the branches, which made him very tired. Other restaurants and wine houses in the town could only say a few sarcastic remarks in a sour manner when they saw this situation, as they were extremely exasperated. They just couldn't beat it. After the dinner order, Qin Mian carefully taught Chef Li how to make some dishes with vermicelli. Chef Li had been a chef for more than 20 years. He had a keen sense of cooking, so he learned quickly. After teaching, Qin Mian asked him to serve each dish for him to taste. "How does it taste, little boss?" Chef Li wiped a handful of sweat as he asked somewhat uneasily. Inwardly, he respected little boss. It was said that this kind of ingredient vermicelli was invented by Little Boss and Big Boss. Because this was a new ingredient, he was not confident even if he was experienced. After Qin Mian tasted one by one, he showed a smile on his face and nodded, "Pretty good. If the full score is 10, you get 9 points." Chef Li had a reassuring smile on his face, "Then I can rest assured." LIAN, who had been standing quietly at the door, said, "Wife, have a meal." "Coming." Qin Mian put down the chopsticks and quickly walked over. His stomach was already growling with hunger. In the lounge, there were 3 dishes, 1 soup, an exquisite bamboo bucket filled with cooked rice, and 2 served bowls of rice on the round table. Qin Mian knew that it was LIAN who asked the chef to make the meal for them in the small kitchen. After turning around and seeing no one at the door, Qin Mian boldly hugged LIAN and offered a burning hot kiss. "You haven't eaten yet? Come and eat together." He pressed LIAN on the chair as he also sat down, picked up a rice bowl and ate with big bites. "I'm so hungry." "Slow down." LIAN picked up a piece of meat on the fish belly, removed the bones, and put it into Qin Mian's bowl. "You also eat." Qin Mian gave him a piece of sweet and sour spare rib. "I just had a fruit." LIAN scooped out a bowl of soup and stirred it with a spoon to cool it down. His eyes were always on Qin Mian. He said again, "Slow down." After Qin Mian finished a bowl of rice, his stomach felt a little more comfortable. "You also eat." LIAN scooped half a spoonful of soup to test the temperature and then pushed the soup bowl to his wife before picking up his rice bowl to eat. Qin Mian took a sip of the soup with a smile and gave LIAN a spoonful. LIAN looked at him as he sipped it. In the evening, the two of them rested at Rugui building. They idly strolled on the suspension bridge as the night gently breeze blew. It was refreshing and comfortable. "Wife. Double Siang House's frequent launch of new dishes can attract a lot of customers. But in this way, you will be very tired," LIAN said. Although those recipes were recorded in the books inside his wife's magical space, he didn't want his wife to spend too many thoughts on it. "Rest assured," Qin Mian embraced his man's shoulders, looked up at the stars and briskly said, "I have means. You will know tomorrow." "But it involved you, too." He looked back and smiled at LIAN. LIAN nodded, "Listen to your arrangement." Qin Mian pulled the man's wrist, "No more of this talk. Let's go. I've been busy all day today, I'm sweating. I want to go back and take a bath." In the honored guest suite exclusive for the 2 men on the 3rd floor, the lights had been lit. The inside was clean and tidy as if no one had ever lived in it. Qin Mian took off his shoes and socks, stepped on the floor barefoot as he rushed into the bathroom and closed the door with a bang. "I'll wash first." End chapter.